Alright, so welcome to RDC Level 1. You're having a good time in lockdown. It's obviously a pretty interesting time for us all in this strange space that we're calling home in our learning environment. This first tutorial video is one of many, and we will use this as a tool. It will replace me standing in front of you in the classroom. And we're focusing today and for the next few weeks on a unit standard which is worth 3 credits. And the focus is looking at drugs and alcohol. I think before we crack into this, let's first start thinking about drugs and alcohol in our own life. I know for some of you it's a real issue. It's something that you perhaps understand better than others, maybe because you have personally been involved in drugs and alcohol, or you have people around you who take drugs, use alcohol, maybe in a healthy way, maybe in an unhealthy way. But it can be quite a personal subject, and we all experience it in quite different ways. But what we do know is that there is a lot of harm that comes from drugs and alcohol, or the abuse of it. And that's why we're doing this unit standard for RDC. It's part of us starting to make sense of ourselves and learning about the things that could possibly be obstacles for us as we start to try and shape ourselves into better people. And so it makes sense that we do a assessment looking at drugs and alcohol. So on your screen, what you'll see is what I'm looking at. This is the booklet. You probably, from what I know, just looking at my own booklet, you won't have this in front of you. But as we start to go down, you'll start to see there's an introduction page. And that's probably your second page in your booklet. If you haven't got your booklet on you now, can you just make sure you have it in the next 30 seconds? If that means pausing this video, then do so. Best thing to do is to follow me as we go through. I'm not going to make today's lesson too intense. I just want to make sure we get this booklet underway. And so the first thing we're going to do is actually move down and we're going to look at the contents. And my focus today and for the week is going to be looking at alcohol, essentially. We'll move through looking here at, we've got, the impact of other drugs, depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens. And then the last part of this is looking at the strategies to manage pressures to use alcohol and other drugs. So looking at what can be done when these substances are in the same space as us, and how do we avoid them? What is the effective strategies to do so? Also have a look here. You're going to see the word appendix come up, and these are the page numbers, and you're going to see shortly that you're going to be looking at the appendix and looking at some words to get a definition for. So let's go down to lesson 1, the impact of alcohol. When you've finished this, as you can see here, it says you'll be able to describe the following things about the impact of alcohol. So you should know how it affects you physically, emotionally, and interpersonally. And if you're not sure what that means, we'll talk about that shortly. And by the end of the week, you'll also have an idea about legal implications of possessing, using, distributing alcohol. Now, you're probably, you're not silly. That having alcohol underage is illegal, and that there are issues around that, legal issues, but we'll look at those in more detail, and it's really important for your assessment that you understand what these things are. So we're going to look at the general effects first. So if we go down here, I want you to find this page. Using alcohol and other drugs can have physical, emotional, and interpersonal effects on our lives. So looking here, physical effects, things which happen to our body if we use alcohol or other drugs. So when you start to think about these things, I want you to, sometimes we immediately think about negative things, but I want you to look at it in a more holistic way. Just think, what do you think the physical effects are of alcohol? And if you're unsure, perhaps if there's people in your household where you're living who have drunk alcohol and might know, then perhaps ask them and say, how does it affect you physically? And that will help you in the next, or the first writing task we're going to do. The same goes emotional. Emotional is more related to our feelings, and also how we make decisions, how we think about things. And also interpersonal, so looking at interpersonal skills. So this is how we relate to people. So when people drink or take drugs, how does it affect the way you actually start communicating and interacting with other people? It certainly does have an impact. We also know that these effects, physical, emotional, and interpersonal, have short-term and long-term effects. Okay, so long-term effects are things that go on for a continued period of time. Short-term are things that happen immediately but maybe are forgotten about or don't perhaps impact one's life for a long period of time. For example, if you drink alcohol, you get a hangover. That's a short-term effect, because after a day or two, you'll no longer feel the effect of a hangover, which is basically a headache and feeling really sick and nauseous. And that's essentially, that is actually the poisoning effect of alcohol, because alcohol is essentially poison. And so your body's recovering from being poisoned over a period of time. So it has affects the body quite dramatically for some people. Long-term effects more relate to things that happen once you've taken alcohol. You might have perhaps been out one night, drunk a lot of alcohol and spent a lot of money. And now you've got no money for a long period of time because you've spent it all on booze. Or you might have done something silly with your money while under the influence. It might be interpersonal related, where you've said something to someone which is going to affect your relationship with them in the long run because of what it was while you're under the influence. So as you can see, they're either short-term and long-term, and they relate to all of these areas of physical, emotional, or interpersonal. Right, today this is what you're going to do for the remaining period of time. We've got an hour. This probably shouldn't take you an hour, but this is more about you guys brainstorming. What do you already know about the effects of alcohol and other drugs? Think about the physical, emotional, and personal effects, and also name some short-term and long-term effects. So looking here, you've got physical. In this space, what I want you to write down here is what are the effects? How do drugs and alcohol affect you physically? Okay, I'm not going to give you any clues. I really want you to think about this yourself. And also, it'd be worth writing, perhaps here, you might want to write long-term or short-term and then long-term, and just bullet point some of the things that could happen as a result physically to people who are drunk or under the influence of drugs. Same goes here for emotional. Okay, what do you think, or how do you think drugs and alcohol affect people emotionally? You know, does it make people happy, sad? Does it make them aggressive, angry? And what are the short-term and long-term effects that can come from that? And I want you to really dig deep in terms of your own personal experience with this. Have you seen this in your own life? Because I certainly know I have, and I could fill this out every single line from my own personal experience. And then also interpersonal, thinking about relationships, thinking about how people interact under the influence. How does alcohol affect how people interact with each other before and after, during an episode on drugs and alcohol, and also looking at the long and short-term effects. So this should take you maybe a half an hour at least. And I'm going to be asking for evidence of this. I want to see that you've done it, and I'll communicate with you how I want to see that. But you will be handwriting that in your booklet that you should have in front of you. Yellow booklet. If we come down here, we look at the impact of alcohol. Okay, so now we're coming quite specific. So what we're going to start with, and this will be the last thing you do today, is just looking at technical words. There's a lot of jargon or a lot of words that come up when we talk about drugs and alcohol, which are not words you'd use on a regular basis, but are words nonetheless are really important for you to understand doing a level 1 assessment. So this is an opportunity to start researching and making sense of some words. So it says here, health professionals use special technical words to describe the effects of alcohol and other drugs on people. Now, for example, the word disorientation means feeling confused, lost, and having no sense of time. You'll find the meanings of these technical words in the appendices at the end of this guide. So if I just quickly whip to the end of this guide, go right to the back here, you'll see we've got appendix or appendice, starting here, physical effects of alcohol and other drugs. You can see all the words, the different words that can be used when we're talking about the physical effects, and their definitions. And you come down here, emotional effects, and then we come down here, look, we've got the human body, all the different things that happen. So the first thing, oh, we've gone a little bit too far there. Right back, scroll back down. So what we want to do here is we want you to go to the Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, which I just showed you at the end of the guide. Choose 5 words from each appendix. So 5 from Appendix A, 5 from Appendix 2. And we're to read the definition next to each word and then use your own words to write the meaning of each technical word. So basically you're going to write the word here, and then next to it, what does it mean? But I don't want you to copy the definition. Don't want you to copy the definition that was given to you at the back. I want you to make your own definition, because if you're copying it, then you're not actually processing it. So what does it mean? Do it in your own words. So it's 5 from here, 5 from, that's 10. Okay, that's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 extra line here. So we're not expecting you to write the word, probably have to use quite small handwriting here. And what does it mean? Each one. Okay, so that's your task for today. Filling this out and then moving down here to do this research exercise on technical words. Next time we meet, we'll look at the effects of alcohol in a bit more detail. We'll look at this exercise here. And then we'll end on Friday looking at the legal issues. But for now, I just want you to get this first task done. So my expectations are that by Thursday that you've got this finished. And if you haven't got this done, maybe you'll get 5 done here. I'd like 10 done. But if you can't, you run out of time because I've been talking too long. I've been going for almost 30 minutes. That's okay. But by the end of the week, we should get this done. So yeah, that's your lesson for today, your first digital lesson over the internet, listening to my voice for a good 30 minutes. You've done well paying attention, focusing on me. So you expect me to be back online with another video. Make sure you complete the role. Okay, the way I'm going to do the role is that you go on to we're on the discussion in our group. You'll see roll call. I'll have the date there, and you simply just comment saying present. And make sure that you do that as soon as possible. So as soon as you've done this, go there and do that. So then I can fill out the role, and then you can get on with your guide or your lesson today for RDC Level 1. Hope you're all doing well, and you'll hear my voice very soon.